My name is Gayle Frevert.
And I'm Cameron Maben. And what branch of service were you in?
I was in the United States Navy.
What were the dates of service?
My dates of service are October of 1976 through August of 2002.
Were you drafted or enlisted?
Neither. I actually requested a commission and was given a direct commission, of which because I was a nurse already when I asked to join the Navy, I was given a direct commission into the Nurse Corps and came in right into the Navy Nurse Corps.
What did your parents think when you told them that you were going to join the Navy?
That's a good question. They were very surprised, mainly because I hadn't talked about it with them. I was in school in Omaha, and they were 3 hours away in Bloomfield, and it was the end of the year, and we were finishing things up, and I was looking at a number of different things, and I had been studying the services and looking at Army and Navy and Air Force, but they didn't realize that I was. We didn't talk like we do today because we didn't have the phone. You know, we would talk and everything, but they didn't know. And so when I told them that I was going to join the Navy, they were very surprised, very proud, but very surprised. I would then be the first person of our family, immediate family, to travel and to go away from home. And so I know that now, having seen other people with families and stuff, I know that must have been very difficult for them. Exciting for me, but very surprising and shocking for them. But it was good. They totally supported it, though. Once I made the decision to move, they were behind me every step of the way.
That's good. How old were you when you started?
I joined just after I turned 23. I had graduated from high school in 1971 and worked for 2 years as a nurse's aide before I decided I wanted to go to nursing school. And then I went to Nebraska Methodist Hospital School of Nursing, which was a 3-year diploma program in Omaha, Nebraska. And at the end of that time frame, I was able to take the board and license as a registered nurse. So I entered the Navy as a registered nurse.
Do you recall your first day in service?
Yes, I do. We had to travel to Newport, Rhode Island for what we called Officer Indoctrination School. It was a 6 weeks class to teach us how to become naval officers. We were all nurses or physicians or supply officers or civil engineers, and so we all came in with a particular specialty, but we did not have a military background. So we got our uniforms, they taught us how to march, they taught us how to military history, but I had to fly from, I think it was Omaha or Sioux City, up to Rhode Island, and then by the time I got there and you get situated, and I was in my room trying to unpack just for, I don't know, half an hour, and someone came and knocked on the door and told me, you're on duty, you're on duty. And I was like, duty, what? And so I then had to go out and do for everybody else what they had just done for me, which was check them in, give them their linens, show them their rooms, and so that was my introduction. Fairly easy, but still kind of surprising that, oh, you're on duty. So.
What type of work did you perform with this service?
I came as registered nurse, so I was a nurse the entire time. I started out doing general duty nursing, which in terms of the military, that's the general career path that they really set for pretty much everybody, is to come in and work as a general duty nurse, getting your skills up. I was a new graduate, so I needed to get my feet on the ground as far as experience and knowing, really comfortable with what I was doing. But I started working on the floor with surgical patients, and then I went to the ICU, the intensive care unit, and during that whole time I stood call in the operating room during after hours and emergency cases. And then my next duty station in Long Beach was when I actually got into that specialty of becoming an OR nurse. So I specialized then in the operating room, and that carried with me through really the rest of my career.
What was the typical day like?
Well, for one thing, being a nurse, and if I was in the United States and doing normal hospitals and stuff, the days were no different than anything else. You get up early, go to work, get a report, take care of patients all day, turn over to shift after you, and you would rotate shifts from days 7 to 3 or 3 to 11 or overnight shift 11 to 7. If you were on call, you carried a beeper and you went in whenever they needed you and stuff. When we were operational, either doing training or when I was deployed on the hospital ship, then your schedule does change according to the activities that are going on there. During the operational training, we pretty much would muster at 7:30 or 8 o'clock and find out what we were going to be doing for the day and have training. Usually would break for lunchtime, and then you'd go back in the afternoon for several hours and work. And then usually the evenings, they had activities for you, or sometimes when you were doing triage drills and casualty drills, you might be doing stuff off and on through the evenings and the nights. Now the hospital ship, we lived on the hospital ship, so even though our work day was maybe 8 to 11 and 1 to 5, we were on the ship 24/7 except for Liberty time. And so, we went to work during those periods of time in the morning and the afternoon, but the rest of the time we hung out, we did other things. If we were in port, we were able to get off the ship and explore and do things around the communities that we were visiting and stuff. So as a nurse, it didn't really change what I did. It just changed the site of where I did it. Although on the hospital ship, when we went out, the ship had been in reduced status, and then when it went to full operating status, we needed to get all of the equipment and supplies set up so that when we started to take on patients, that we would be ready to do those. We had all the equipment, we had all the supplies, we just needed to get it organized, and we did a lot of training because you were bringing a number of people from different places together, and you wanted to train so that you were a smooth unit when things started to happen. So we did a lot of training.
What did they teach you in the service?
They taught us military history. They taught us military honor and tradition. They taught us, us as nurses, to be naval officers, because being medical and being healthcare, we thought first and foremost that we were a nurse. But realistically, when you come in, yes, you do nursing duties, but yet you're also a naval officer. And so that was a shift that a lot of us had to learn and move into, because the staff that worked with you would usually be junior to you. And so you not only needed to provide the leadership as a nurse, but you needed to provide the leadership as far as career and training and all of those things that went along with whatever rank that you were at. As you went up in rank, became more responsibility and more challenges and more people that you were responsible for, not just what they did on a day-to-day, but you became really responsible to help them be successful in their careers, make sure or look that they're getting the education and training that they need and meet all the things that they need for advancement.
What kind of challenges did you have during your
years of service?
Yeah.
The challenges that I had, I will say that I don't know that I really necessarily felt that they were so much as challenging as just as that was my job, that's what I was supposed to be doing. But when I look back on my time, now I think the challenges were moving every few years. Although in 26 years I only moved 8 times, that's actually pretty good for that length of time. But about the time you kind of get unpacked and resettled and your pictures hung and kind of resettled, then it was time to start looking at where you wanted to go again, and where you would be assigned. And then the time lost in packing up all your belongings and transitioning from one station to the next, and then when you get to the next place, finding a place to live, get everything unpacked and resettled and everything, and the whole time you're still working. So as I am single, I was not married, and so the responsibility all fell on me to do that. I had to make sure that I was ready for the move. I had to make sure that my work couldn't suffer because I was doing the move. And so but when you start out, you don't have a lot of stuff. You accumulate more stuff as you go along. So the moves got progressively more complicated because I had more stuff, more personal belongings, more furniture, and stuff that you pick up as you go along. So it was challenging to move. the most challenging probably, but the most fun was when I was stationed overseas, when I was transferred overseas. And it was challenging in the sense that it was a whole total new environment, and as a young farm girl from Nebraska, I had not done any of that kind of travel in that, so that was a new thing. But we had the security of, we were moving and getting set up and everything was done in the context of the military, so we had support. And you had friends that were there, and someone, when you went to a duty station, they were your sponsor. They would meet you, they would try to help make sure that you found a place to live. If you needed anything, that they would help. It was really important when you went overseas that you had somebody. When you went overseas, the sponsor was even more important because you're in a foreign country and you have to, learn that. But being overseas, they also do a very nice job of preparing you to be overseas, in that we would have an orientation to the hospital we were at to figure out what was going. So we knew how it was running, how it would go. But then we also had what they called area orientation, and they would teach us how to try to teach us or give us information on how to live in another world, in another culture. So, because in Japan they drive on the opposite side of the road, so we had to get our driver's license, and it was kind of the unofficial that when you were new to the island, that someone would ride with you for the first few times till you got used to driving on the left side of the road, which wasn't that difficult to figure out because everybody did it, so you just kind of followed everybody else. But it's very empowering to have lived in a foreign country and to have traveled and to get around and, be able to sit here today and talk about the places that I went and things that, I did. Some of the travels that I did on vacation and stuff were tours and stuff that were set up by the base, which was fun because that was nice and secure to do that. But there were other times that I took off and went to explore Japan on my own and used the train and the bus and the taxis and, even went the wrong way on the train and I'm still here, so. But very empowering to live in another country and be able to say that, you can get around, you can, be out in town and, do stuff and not be confined just to base, and you'll be scared to go off base, so.